You think saving your money makes you safe? That's not just wrong. That's exactly what the system wants you to believe so it can steal everything you have. Let me show you what happens when money actually dies. Moving on, let's look at the safety trap. I'm Tom, and this is Tom Thinks. I'm here to cut through the Wall Street jargon and give you the real talk on your money, even if it hurts your feelings a little bit. If you've ever felt like no matter how much you save, you are somehow falling further behind, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Because today we are talking about something that keeps every single finance nerd up at night, and it should keep you up too. We are talking about hyperinflation. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tom, that is some far-off problem that happens in broken countries with cartoonish villains. That is not happening here. And you are right. Probably. But here's the thing. The psychological and structural conditions that create hyperinflation are already baked into the financial system you live in right now. And the lessons from the 3 worst hyperinflations in history are terrifying, not because of the math, but because of what they reveal about human behavior. We think of inflation as a price problem. Eggs cost more, gas costs more, but hyperinflation is not a price problem. Hyperinflation is a trust problem. When trust in the currency collapses, everything you thought was solid turns to vapor, and the most dangerous idea you can carry into that storm is the idea that cash is safe. Now look, I want you to picture something. You have worked your entire life. You have been responsible. You skipped the vacations. You bought the sensible car. You saved 10% of every paycheck for 30 years. You have got a nice, fat stack of cash in the bank and maybe some bonds. You feel secure. You feel like you did everything right, and then in a matter of months, that stack of cash becomes worth less than the paper it is printed on. Your life's work. Evaporated. Not because you made bad investments, because you made the one investment your entire culture told you was safest. Moving on, let's look at Weimar's warning. Let us start with the one everybody thinks they know. Weimar Germany, 1920s, the story they tell you is that Germany printed too much money to pay war reparations and suddenly a wheelbarrow full of cash could not buy a loaf of bread. That is technically true, but it misses the psychology. Here is what actually happened. In 1914, Germany went off the gold standard to fund World War I. They printed money to pay soldiers and buy supplies. After the war, the Treaty of Versailles demanded reparations that were, honestly, impossible. Germany owed the equivalent of about $33 billion in gold. They could not produce that much real value. So the government did what governments do when they run out of options. They printed more. At first, the inflation was manageable. Prices went up maybe 10% a year. Annoying but not catastrophic. Then, in 1923, something snapped. Now, here is the psychological detail that most history books skip. The collapse did not happen when the printing presses sped up. It happened when people stopped believing. You see, money is not actually valuable. Money is a shared hallucination. We all agree that this piece of colored paper can be exchanged for bread tomorrow. That agreement is the only thing backing it. The moment enough people doubt that agreement, the whole thing falls apart. And in 1923 Germany, the doubt became a stampede. People started spending their paychecks within hours of receiving them because prices doubled by lunchtime. Factory workers demanded to be paid twice a day so their wives could run out and buy anything before the cash became worthless. Here is a number that will break your brain. In November 1923, $1 was worth 4 trillion German marks. 4 trillion, literally overnight. Now you might be thinking, Tom, that sounds insane, but I keep my money in a bank, not under my mattress. I have insurance. I have diversification. And I hear you. But here is what the Weimar story teaches us. Diversification into different currencies does not help when the entire global system is unwinding. And bank accounts are just digital promises. If the currency collapses, the promise collapses with it. The people who survived in Weimar were not the savers. They were the people who owned real stuff. Land, tools, commodities, anything physical that could not be printed into oblivion. Moving on, let's look at Hungary's horror. But as bad as Weimar was, it was not the worst. That title belongs to Hungary, 1946. And this one is so extreme it sounds like science fiction. After World War II, Hungary was destroyed. Half of its industrial capacity was gone. The currency, the pengo, had already been weakened by the war. The government made a fatal error. Instead of admitting the country was broke and starting over, they tried to prop things up by printing money to pay wages and buy food. Here's the number that will make your eyes water. In July 1946, Prices in Hungary were doubling every 15 hours. Every 15 hours. That means if you had 1,000 pengo in your pocket on Monday morning, by Tuesday evening it was worth 250 in real terms, by Wednesday night 62. By Friday morning you had less than 4 pengo worth of purchasing power. In 1 week, your entire savings became zero. Now let us talk about the psychology of that, because this is where it gets really interesting for us. The Hungarian people did not wake up one day and realize their money was worthless. It happened gradually, then suddenly. Classic financial disaster pattern. In the early stages, people held onto their cash because they thought the situation would stabilize. They had faith that the government would fix it. That faith was the enemy of their survival. Behavioral economists call this the normalcy bias. It is the tendency of the human brain to assume that the current situation will continue into the future. We cannot process the idea of total collapse because we have never experienced it. So we tell ourselves stories. It will get better. They will fix it. I just need to wait it out. Meanwhile, the people who thrived in Hungary were the ones who broke that mental pattern early. They were the ones who, when they got paid, immediately converted their money into gold, or US dollars, or sacks of flour. They looked at their cash and saw what it really was, a melting ice cube. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people do not lose their wealth in a hyperinflation because the system is unfair. They lose it because their own psychology refuses to accept reality until it is too late. The saver mentality that served them so well in stable times became a death sentence. Moving on, let's look at Zimbabwe's zeroes. Now let us jump forward to the modern era. Zimbabwe, 2008. And if you want to see what digital money looks like when it dies, this is your case study. Robert Mugabe's government, facing economic collapse after land reforms destroyed the agricultural sector, did what every desperate government does, printed. At first, the central bank printed $1,000 notes, then 10,000, then 100 million, then 10 billion. By the end, they were printing $100 trillion notes. Let me say that again. 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. And what could that $100 trillion note buy you? Not a house, not a car, not even a week of groceries. It could buy you a single bus ticket for a one-way trip across town. A $100 trillion bus ticket. Now, here is the behavioral twist that applies directly to your life in 2026. The Zimbabwean government tried to stop the collapse by issuing what they called an official exchange rate. They said the official rate is $1 to 1,000 Zimbabwean dollars, but on the streets, the black market rate was $1 to 100 trillion. The government was lying about the value of their own currency, and everybody knew it. But here's the scary part. Many people still accepted the official rate because they trusted authority. They thought the government would not lie to us. They must know what they are doing. That trust costs people everything, and I want you to ask yourself honestly, are you doing the same thing right now? Are you trusting official inflation numbers that might be massaged? Are you trusting that your bank is safe because it has a fancy sign on the door? Are you trusting that your pension will be there because the brochure said so? Zimbabwe teaches us that when the system is breaking, the official story is always the last to admit it. The people who survived were the ones who watched what was actually happening in the real economy, not what the central bank was saying. They paid attention to street prices, not government statistics, and they acted before the crowd did. Moving on, let's look at what you missed. So let us step back and ask the question nobody wants to answer. What do these three disasters have in common? And more importantly, what are the warning signs that the average person ignores until it is too late? Number 1, debt levels that cannot possibly be repaid. Every single hyperinflation was preceded by a government that had borrowed so much money that the only way out was to print the currency into oblivion. They hit a wall where default and hyperinflation were the only two options. Now look at the global debt situation in 2026. Total global debt has exceeded $300 trillion. Governments, corporations, and households are all leveraged to levels never seen before in peacetime. I'm not saying collapse is coming tomorrow, but the structural conditions are identical to the preconditions we see in every historical case. Number 2, real interest rates that are negative. Here is what most people do not realize. If your savings account pays you 2% interest, but inflation is running at 5%, you are not saving. You are slowly burning your money to keep warm. In Weimar, in Hungary, in Zimbabwe, real interest rates went deeply negative long before the hyperinflation became obvious. The signal was there. People just did not know how to read it. Number 3. The disappearance of the savings class. In stable economies, savers are rewarded. In pre-hyperinflation economies, savers are punished so severely that they either stop saving or they flee to real assets. If you find yourself in a financial environment where the responsible act of saving cash feels like it is getting you nowhere, that is not a bug. That is a warning. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Tom, this is fear-mongering. The United States is not Zimbabwe. The euro is not the pengo. And you're right, I'm not saying the dollar collapses tomorrow. What I am saying is that the psychological patterns that cause people to lose everything are universal. The specific trigger might be different in your lifetime, but the human response will be the same: denial, trust in authority, normalcy bias, and then panic when it is too late. Moving on, let's look at fortress mindset. So here's what you actually do about it. And I'm going to keep this practical because I hate videos that scare you and then tell you to buy gold from a sponsor. Step 1. Stop thinking of cash as an investment. Cash is not an investment. Cash is a tool for transactions. The money you need for the next 3 to 6 months of expenses, keep it in cash. Everything else should be in assets that cannot be printed away. Real estate, productive businesses, commodities. Even a well-diversified stock index fund is better than cash because companies can raise prices with inflation. Step 2. Build what I call a fortress balance sheet. That means owning assets that produce real value regardless of what the currency does. If you own a rental property, that property still provides shelter whether the dollar is strong or weak. If you own shares of a company that makes food or energy, that company still sells products people need. The goal is not to predict the next crisis. The goal is to build a life that survives the crisis you did not predict. Step 3. Keep a small allocation to what I call crisis hedges. And I do not mean Bitcoin or gold alone. I mean physical stuff that has intrinsic value. A few ounces of gold that you actually hold in your hand. A deep pantry of non-perishable food. Tools that can fix things. Skills that can provide value to your neighbors. Look, this is not about becoming a doomsday prepper who lives in a bunker. This is about recognizing that financial systems are built on trust. And trust can evaporate faster than you think. The lessons of Weimar, Hungary, and Zimbabwe are not historical curiosities. They are mirrors. They show us what happens when a society collectively loses faith in its money. And they show us that the people who survive are not the richest or the smartest. They are the ones who understood that safety is an illusion and that the only real protection is owning things that the printing press cannot touch. You have been told your whole life that saving money is the path to security, and in a stable system it is. But systems do not stay stable forever. The question is not whether you can predict the next crisis. The question is whether you are prepared for the one you did not see coming. I am Tom, and this has been Tom Thinks. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means you are paying attention. Hit subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and go look at your balance sheet with fresh eyes. Your future self will thank you.
Found this interesting? Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, share it out, and drop your questions or ideas in the comments. Until our next adventure.